memes here. Yes. So I recently binged Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I repeat again, I binged Monarch Legacy of Monsters. That's my initial opinion. My opinion is it's a dramumentary about Monarch with a taste of Titans. Basically, long story, if you think there's going to be nonstop monster fights and everything, you're probably going to be disappointed. Even though they kind of bait you in, you kind of got Bill Randall there on Skull Island. You're starting off, he's getting chased by those spider things, like a lot of things. He's going to die. He's tossing the tapes out there and everything, yada, yada. Fast forward, and again, there's going to be some spoilers. I didn't go through all of this, that, the other thing. I'll try to let you know, but basically, our story's following. Let's just do the standard Google thing because I am terribly unprepared, and this will help give a little bit of context. All right, so you type in the Google's Monarch Legacy of Monsters. What do you got? All right, so basically, you start off. You got Kate Randa here. That's basically the school teacher that basically from the 2014 movie where basically you see Godzilla on the Golden Gate Bridge. She was one of the survivors, and then all the things you're seeing these things like this monarch going around. This show is actually pretty damn savage. It literally shows her getting off the bus, like helping like maybe one or two kids off, and then the bus literally plunges to its doom. Like, oh, you straight up killed a bus full of children. I'm like, I understand that it's I don't know if it's somebody like me, that was something they maybe just show the bus go up, but they're literally showing it go down there, and you see the kid. Oh, and this show is not for children. When I say children, I'm like, I'm just saying if someone's before a teenager, or even if they're maybe like a younger teen. Then again, to be fair, if you haven't monitored your kids and what they've done on the internet, they've probably seen worse. I'm just saying, but it's kind of like bringing your kids to Deadpool. There's a reason that movie was originally rated I. Like, they do have some sex. They do have some. There's a lot of violence. I mean, duh, it's freaking Deadpool and everything. And it's also you don't have the characterization, but they went into that. It seems like everybody's cheating on everybody, and that's one of the things they try to bring up at one point. There's a difference between a lie and a secret, and that's something that actually, I should probably go into the folks here. You get Kate Randa, her fight. Lee Shaw. This is something I actually heard about, and I totally forgot that I didn't. I know Kurt Russell actually had a son, but I remember this. But it's actually kind of cool the way they play it off. Is basically Kurt Russell's playing the older. Here's a bit of a spoiler. He disappears in the Hollow Earth as a young man, probably like late 20s, early 30s or so. He comes back, but instead of 1962, it's 1982. Because apparently they go to this place. It's, again, some spoilers here. Probably seen some of it. It's called Axis Monday, defined by actually Keiko, who is that? I think we need to go further. More cast. No, show more. All right. There we. Excuse me, Amico. But basically, you go in there, and apparently, according to the gravity distortions, long story short, you're there. Basically, again, spoilers. This character ends up going missing. And then she thinks, it's been like 57 days, 59 days, according to her calculations. Yeah, this young man that went down there, he disappeared for like a week, and then came back. It was 20 years later. Yeah, yeah. Basically, you end up having her grandmother. Oh my god, did I just confuse some of these actors? Oh my god, I am so racist. I'm going to hell, but these things happen. Hey Tim, what's going on? Um, it's. I'll be straight up. I think actually KDM said this. I think this is the advice. It's a binge show. You wait for the whole thing to come out. You watch it. You start watching. If you get it, I'll be straight. I was just gonna like start to watch it sparingly here and there. And it was probably kind of like Game of Thrones. Like once you got past the third episode, I was like, I'm going to stop now. But the autoplay was on, and then I just got drawn in. I was actually going to like start working out again, and then I just like told me I'm like, okay, I wanted to see because could have been bad. A lot of the scenes, and why reason I say it's a dramumentary, the show is about Monarch. Hey, Jack, thanks for joining, my friend. But basically, they're filling in the plot between the Monsterverse. I saw some article. It's like this is rewriting the Monsterverse. No, it's connecting the sinew, if you would, of the Monsterverse. So basically, it takes place shortly after G Day, basically in 2014. So they're right around about a yearish after. So there's the disaster and everything, and basically, Kate thinks her dad is basically dead. Bill Randa. Oh, excuse me, not Bill. Hiroshi Randa. Oh, that's another thing in and of itself. You're finding out all these things, and as she goes to Japan, okay, I'll avoid some of this, but she finds out things quite aren't as they are. Her dad may not have. Again, difference between a secret and a lie. Basically, a lot of questions could have been asked. It would have probably provided some difficult conversations, but those questions were not asked. So, yeah, a lot of people find out a lot about other things that are going on there. But basically, the show literally details because they'll flash back to like the 50s or so, like because when Monarch was founded in like the 60s, no, excuse me, the late 40s after the war, and then basically in the 50s, and then you end up having some brilliant, formerly Japanese scientists come in, and oh my god, they touched upon racism because yeah, it was a thing. You see some dudes get into fights about it because back in the day, you start talking some smack about somebody, a gal that somebody likes. We used to call those fighting words. Again, it's a dramatization. I do not condone violence unless it's within the context of a movie, some fantasy, or we legalize dueling. Uh, but basically, a lot of the shots in the movie, I think some of the like if you're just monsterverse, you want to see cool monsters. Don't get me wrong, there's cool monsters, and there are some pretty damn good shots of Godzilla in this, especially in the day and everything. It's like takes like some of those B movies where you would have like the Super Croc or something like that, multiply it by 1,000, and something about even a scene because it's like you actually start to care. Some of the stuff you might say, okay, that seems a little. They're trying to do additional character development of like these characters, but you realize ooh, nobody's really squeaky clean in this. Like you start seeing it's again. I'm not going to say people were cheating on people. A lot of people had a lot of secrets, and that's the whole thing with Monarch. And one of my favorite characters. Oh yeah, Tim. Tim, you're getting the vibe of this guy. And so much crap goes wrong. To at one point, he's like on some call. He's like, I'm the troll from IT that you never really want to actually have to talk to. He starts going into some big rant. He's like, all right, well, here's the situation. So they do have comedy. They do blend a lot of things together. Where else do we have here? Okay, they don't have. Let's go to all the characters because there are actually a lot of characters. Kurt Russell actually does a pretty dang good job in this, and especially if you have literally his own son playing the younger version of himself. I'm like, dang, they actually found a pretty good. And I'm like, oh wait, it actually is his. It says actually his kid actually playing his younger self. So I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. You could do that. But they actually touch upon a lot of other things like PTSD. Okay, imagine you are literally this woman. You're literally Kate. You're chaperoning a bus evacuating the city on the Golden Gate Bridge. Godzilla attack. You manage to get off the bus, and your entire class like dies right in front of your eyes, and there would be these flashbacks and everything, and there are some really good shots here. Like they would take some time to actually certain like on scene shots where they're actually doing it. I think they actually did a pretty good job in this. Like as far as like that, you might say the shots went a little longer, but I'm like, if you're gonna spend the money to film on location, I could see why they put in the extra like three, maybe 4 seconds of a beautiful shot there, whether it's in the jungle, whether it's just like some all-terrain vehicles going around some mountain that totally isn't a sleeping Godzilla or something. They play that into it, and the characters do actually act. Like it's like when you actually see some folks where it's like, oh, we barely had any character development. We only tangentially to when you see a person start breaking down with somebody they care about, like they find out like allegedly is gone and not coming back. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I teared up. I teared up a couple of times in this thing. It actually hit me in the feels. So I'm like, again, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, because basically tracing some of the kiddos that are like the direct descendants of like the founders and stuff. And they obfuscate some stuff up in the air because at one point I think was it this Kate and Lee Shaw there. Uh, she's they point out the awkwardness in it. I do kind of appreciate that. In that, at one point she's like, "Yeah, we were driving through the desert," and it's like, at one moment I thought Dude Man was gonna tell me like he was my grandpa or something like that, and like you're hearing that, you're like, "Oh my god, is that the truth?" But you're like, "No, they're supposed to be the Randa kids," and then you find out. Well, I mean, that's technically true because of certain things, but it depends on how you want to define family. People maybe view that differently. Um, that's why I'm like, there is a lot of drama in this. Like all the human drama, I'm just like, oh, you actually did that. That is awkward as all heck. And I'm all of a sudden they'll cut to another scene. It'll be like, they do jump around. Some folks aren't big fans of that. I mean, they do clearly kind of lay it out, but if you're one of those folks, I view this as kind of like for like a lot of the MonsterVerse, they kind of like have the comics. Like if you want to see what happened like before, or excuse me, directly after this, and I'm curious how they're going to work that in. Maybe they will touch upon this if they do a season 2, which kind of looks like it is. I think it's still like #1 rated show in like on Apple TV or whatever. But it looks like what they're doing. Yeah, dude. Hey, LDG awesome. Well, that's the thing, dude. I'm like, I remember hearing about that, and then I totally forgot it because, like, I remember hearing some stuff about that. I'm like, all right, well, they did the last episode, so now it's time to actually watch it. And I'm like, here's one of the things. I feel it's kind of like Game of Thrones, where if you really like that stuff, you like it, but you need some taste of monsters. You need to get the plot rolling, and once you get to about the 3rd episode, things kind of pick up, and the plot moves. That's one of the things you can't say about this thing. You can't say that the plot doesn't move. Some may say the plot jumps around a bit too much, but what they seem to be doing is weaving together that conduit of the MonsterVerse, and that they've set themselves up well, in that they start off right about 2015, and they touch upon stuff in like the 50s and everything like that. And so it is a little confusing once you see the whole picture, like, okay, I guess that kind of makes a lot of sense. And it's like, you realize it's like, yeah, it doesn't really look like anybody's a saint in this at all. So it's like, all right, that's kind of a real thing. How dare you touch upon real issues? And then they also have, oh, I forget, the actress that plays Naomi Nagata from The Expanse. She's in this. She's playing another role where she's like some really brilliant, like, tech entrepreneur or something like that. I'm like, all right, well, she's an engineer in The Expanse and everything. She did a damn good job in that role. I'm not gonna lie, I've got a wee bit of a crush on Naomi Nagata. But also in this, she's kind of playing, I'm almost want to say kind of like, what was it? That Simon's character from Godzilla versus Kong, the guy that built Mechagodzilla, where he's going into some maniacal speech. It's like, he's not really like an evil genius to say. I mean, he's kind of acting like it. The whole lot to do with guns. You're literally building a super monster and everything. On paper, seems to make a lot of sense. As soon as you start tapping into the King Ghidorah neural interface, what could possibly go wrong? But but basically, they actually weave a lot of stuff together. You start to see some of the wee bit of a spoiler, not really. They kind of show how we started to build some of the Neuralink infrastructure for Mechagodzilla in there. So it's kind of like a deep lore dump on everything Monarch and interrelated. And since Monarch is related to monsters and the Titans and all the stuff going on, there was some kind of silly stuff that really didn't make sense. But it's like a lot of times you have characters. To be fair, I feel like a lot of the characters, it was kind of like it really does resemble some of the ADD going on today. I say this as Somebody that may or may not have wicked bad ADD. Wicked. Yes, I said it. But it's one of those things where a lot of times you realistically, it's like, this is a whole bunch of beat. I just want to get out of here. Like, yeah, characters leave, and then another character steps up, and then another character steps up. Criticism and some of those Arctic seeds, those folks would totally be dead. Again, I realize it's in a universe where there's ginormous monsters going around that can smash the city at any time. I understand that. Somebody that's been out in places nowhere near as cold as where they are, I'm like, oh, you would have had your hood up, or their face skin would have been. Probably one of my biggest gripes, and I think on the point where they're trying to nuke Godzilla, one of the shots when they're supposed to be on a different island looked kind of the same. It looked a little lazy, and then they kind of read it. I could just be making that all up. Maybe it was just in my head. The Ion Dragon, that kind of Gauss-looking thing, I'm starting to hear rumors because the first time I saw that thing fly out, I'm like, oh my god, they're doing Godzilla versus Gauss. Gauss is basically the giant vampire bat thing with the triangle head from the Gamera series. Kind of like the Gigan for the Gameraverse there. Allegedly, according to some random dude on the internet, they actually wanted it to be Gauss. So I'm like, just because I look at that thing, I'm like, that's a Gauss that is not Gauss copyright. Because it essentially was just freaking Gauss. All right, let's give it like kind of like the tri-barb on the tail there. We'll kind of give it. Let's just do this. Ion Dragon Monarch. All right, let's go to Wikipedia. All right, so it's this thing here. I'm like, oh God, no, leave me alone, Xfinity. God, I'm gonna pay too much for everything. But all right, I look at that. I'm like, that's freaking Gauss. That's just like a modern day freaking Gauss. They just changed a little bit of the barbs on the tail and everything, and Gauss maybe can stand a little bit more upright. I'm just like, apparently that's what they were going for. So I'm like, that's how it became the Ion Dragon. Personally, I think Gauss would have been cooler because maybe it would have put up a little bit more of a fight. I'm just saying, anybody that actually thought that the Ion Dragon was going to go much more than one round with Godzilla, you're open to your own interpretation. Dude, man, it's kind of rough and stuff. He puts up a little bit of a fight, but freaking Godzilla. What do you expected? Hey, Cap, what's going on? No, I'm just getting ready to wrap up. Again, my view of the whole Monarch Legacy of Monsters. If you're interested in the MonsterVerse, if you like stuff like this, if you like backstory, and you got nothing wrong with like a dumpster fire that is different people's relationships with each other, give it a watch. If you still want to watch it, if you can get past episode 3, that's what it took to me. It's like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. I'm like, I had the -1 stuff, Godzilla -1. The Godzilla -1, again, the balance of monster, the human in that. Now, again, it wasn't always just updated things. A lot of it was maybe like a flashback or something like this. But they would show different angles and it would be a different characterization. The monster was on screen a fair bit of the time, or they were actually building stuff up with human characters or actually going through different things. So I think that's why I give it probably like a 9.5. Some folks might get mad at that. It's like, I thought some of the stuff was kind of silly, a little bit silly there, but it's like, it's still the best movie that I've seen this year, and that was, I thought Godzilla -1 was better than Oppenheimer. It's content. It's pretty. It's pretty. The soundtrack is great. Like, the music that they use is very emotionally moving. I teared up a couple of times. Again, Shaw or Lee Shaw, Kurt Russell, Senior or Junior. I realize his name is Wyatt. I apologize, sir. But it's one of those things where it's like, I think they did a dang good job. And it literally also talks about bureaucracy. That's the thing. They touched upon a lot of things. They talk about bureaucracy. Well, you're going to play at the table. And then you end up, I'm not going to say, but apparently some of the management of Monarch going back in the day happened because Dude Man was jealous because somebody may have not said something. We'll leave it at that. But long story short, you start off 2015. By the time they finish the final episode, and again, maybe some space timey stuff there, they don't get too out of it. It's more like, all right, you're in a different place. Time passes differently there. All right, that's cool. I went through some wacky kaiju portal. Of course, that's going to happen. So, all that aside, I think they did a pretty good job with this. The way they ended about 2017. So they're shortly before the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters. You have Godzilla King of the Monsters. You got your Skull Island. They're fleshing it together. You see how things happen. Kong does make an appearance. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, again, like I said before, I'm like, it's a dramumentary about Monarch with a taste of Titans. There are some really pretty shots of gods. If you just want to watch that, I'm sure you can find the clips all over there or just skip through it for that. But if it's something you want to watch, feel free. The link to Apple TV is in doobly doo. I know I got a whole bunch of like free trials and stuff. I think that's what I'm doing right now. So, but it's got me to the point where it's like, all right, if I want to keep going, or even just resubscribe for season 2, I'll probably do that because I'm interested. And it's filling out the Monsterverse, kind of like a lot of the comic books did, except Apple spent like $100 million on this or something like that. If they spend another $100 million, people keep watching it. Hey, maybe we'll continue to get some more monster stuff. And as technology gets better, maybe we'll have some more monster battles. Maybe they'll be able to tie it. How the heck did they get those skull crawlers from Skull Island and stuff like that over there from Mechagodzilla to Fry? And maybe some more behind the scenes of that. So it's basically a Monarch deep lore exploration there. Again, are there some cool Titan scenes? Yes. That's why you're tuning in. You're probably going to be bored. Just my opinion. But that's all I got for now. I think we got a little snow dub action going on over there. I have no idea to even do any raids or anything. But if you like puppets, some debauchery, hilarity, I think Snow Dub's got stuff going on. So that's all I got for right now. Peace out, everybody. Take care of yourselves. It's a wacky and wild world out there, but hey, LDG, sometimes I feel the same way. Peace out, everybody.